Did you guys know that in baseball there are two forms of pitching? You have the windup and the set position. Set position is best used when there are runners on base because it is the quicker form of delivery and it allows you to pick off base runners. The four main parts of the set position are your starting point, the stretch, the set position itself, and what you can do from the set position. Before I get started, I'd like to point out that I'm right-handed, so my pivot foot is going to be my right foot. Starting off with the starting position, it's defined in the MLB rulebook as pivot foot in contact with the pitcher's plate, ball in hand or in glove, and one hand resting by your side. Something like this. Now, as you can see here, I have a picture that I found from a video of Justin Verlander. You can't see his pivot foot, but it's touching the pitcher's plate, and he has the ball in his hand in this picture instead of the glove, like I showed you. And his arm is resting by his side. Moving on to the stretch, the MLB rulebook defines that as any natural preliminary motion, and it must be without interruption and in one continuous motion. So, an example of that, how I used to pitch, I would just come up and come set. Another example would be Clayton Kershaw. He has a pretty unique stretch. What he likes to do, he comes up, puts his arms up like this, and then comes set. That will obviously vary with everybody because everybody does something a little bit different. So once you come to your stop, you're now in your set position. And the MLB rulebook defines that as when a pitcher with his pivot foot in contact with and his other foot in front of the pitcher's plate, with both hands together with the ball, and come into a complete stop. And like something like this. And this will be the set position. From here, you really can't move at all, other than moving, tilting your head, just like this, to check on the base runners. And right here I have another freeze frame of Justin Verlander. Here you can see his pivot foot is in contact with, both of his hands are together in front of him, the ball in hand, and he's paused. Once you have reached your set position, you can do one of three things. You can either pitch the ball to home plate, or something like this. Another thing you can do, you can try to pick off a base runner. I'm going to show you how to do it to first real quick, just for an example. Do something like this. The last thing you can do is step off. All that is taking your pivot foot and stepping back over the pitcher's plate. And you can feel free to do whatever you like. Take a little breather, whatever. So in conclusion, guys, set position is best used with runners on base because it's the quicker form of pitching and it allows you to pick players off. The four main parts are starting point, stretch, set position, and you can either pitch, pick a player off, or step off from that point. And now that you guys know, that's the basics of the set position. Feel free to go get in the ball game, pitch like a pro. Maybe even one day, thanks to me, make millions in the MLB. So guys, lastly, I have a couple sources for the MLB rulebook. I use the 2018 version because I own that. And lastly, I got the YouTube video link for the video I used for the pictures that you saw earlier.